Beloved friends, in this world where everyone rushes to defend, explain, and justify their positions, the awakened being must master the art of conscious silence. Tonight, I will share with you a profound truth that I learned in my own moments of deep contemplation. Silence is not merely the absence of speech. It is the very presence of your divine nature expressing itself. In your world, you encounter countless situations where others seem to oppose, misunderstand, or challenge you. It is tempting, in such moments, to rise in defense, to explain yourself, to make them understand. Yet I tell you this eternal truth. What you see in others is nothing more than your own consciousness pushed out. Every conflict, every misunderstanding is a mirror reflecting the states you have entertained within yourself. When you grasp this, you will cease to waste your energy on external battles and instead turn your attention inward, where the true work begins. The Apostle Paul reminds us in Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Paul's words are often taken to mean an external battle against unseen forces, but I urge you to see them differently. The principalities and powers he speaks of are not outside you. They are states of consciousness that hold dominion over your world. When you recognize this, you no longer see the person before you as an adversary, but as a reflection of a state you have assumed. Imagine a room filled with mirrors. Each one reflects an aspect of your being, some beautiful, some grotesque. When you encounter a person who misunderstands you or twists your words, it is as though you are looking into one of these mirrors. The image you see is not separate from you. It is a reflection of a state you hold within. To react with anger or defense is to misunderstand the nature of the mirror. The wise man does not attempt to change the reflection by manipulating the glass. He changes the image within himself. Jesus, the master teacher, understood this profoundly. When he said in Matthew 7:6, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine," he was not speaking of literal animals or people. He was teaching a psychological truth. Do not waste your energy explaining, justifying, or defending yourself to those who cannot perceive your value. Silence is not a weakness, but a deliberate state of mastery. It is the acknowledgement that the external world is a shadow of the internal, and true change comes not through outward struggle, but through inward transformation. Silence, in this context, is not merely the absence of words. It is a powerful state of focused imagination. When faced with opposition, your first reaction may be to speak, to clarify, to make your case. But consider this: every word you utter reinforces the reality of the state you wish to escape. Instead, withdraw into the silence of your mind and revise the situation in imagination. See the person not as an enemy, but as a friend. Hear their words not as an attack, but as an expression of understanding and kindness. Persist in this revision until it feels real to you, and you will watch as the outer world conforms to your inner vision. Neville Goddard often said, "You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of them. This creation occurs through your acceptance of states. Every person, every event, every circumstance is drawn into your experience by the state you occupy. Change the state, and you change the world. This is the power of consciousness. How then do you shift from one state to another? Begin by observing yourself. When you feel misunderstood or attacked, pause and ask, "What state am I in that would produce this reflection?" The answer will come, for your emotions are the language of your states. Anger, frustration, and fear signal that you are in a state of separation, seeing others as adversaries. Love, peace, and understanding indicate a state of unity where you recognize the oneness of all life. Once you identify the state, close your eyes and imagine yourself in its opposite. If you feel rejected, imagine acceptance. If you feel attacked, imagine being embraced. Engage all your senses in this imaginative act until it feels natural to you. This is not a mere mental exercise. It is a spiritual act of creation. As you persist, the new state will harden into fact, and the outer world will reflect it back to you. Let us reflect on the nature of states. A state is not a fleeting emotion or a passing thought. It is a dwelling place for your consciousness. Just as you physically reside in a house, you spiritually reside in a state. And just as your house determines your view of the world outside its windows, your state determines your perception of reality. When you understand this, you will see that every conflict is an opportunity to move to a higher state, every misunderstanding a call to awaken to a deeper truth. The power of states is infinite. When you fully grasp this, you will no longer seek to change others, but to transform yourself. You will see every person as a messenger, every event as a lesson, every challenge as a doorway to greater understanding. And in this realization, you will find peace, for you will know that the world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. As you move through life, remember this: you are the operant power. The world is your consciousness pushed out, and every state you occupy manifests in the external. Choose your states wisely, for they are the seeds of your reality. In silence and imagination, you hold the key to transformation. Will you use it? This is the power of states, the foundation of all creation. Embrace it, and you will discover that the battles you once fought outside yourself dissolve into the stillness of inner mastery. Now, let us turn our attention to what many call demons. These are not the monstrous creatures often depicted in religious texts, nor are they external forces waiting to pounce on the unsuspecting. No, demons are states of consciousness, states that you, through the power of your imagination, have unconsciously given form and life. The darkness you may perceive in another is not some independent force over which you have no control. It is merely an extension of the beliefs, assumptions, and emotional states you have allowed to dwell within your own mind. The teachings of Abdullah, my revered mentor, illuminated this truth for me, and I have come to understand it deeply through my own life. Everything you experience, everything you perceive, is simply yourself pushed outward. There is no other. The characters in your world, the circumstances, and even the very demons you face are all projections of your own consciousness. They are not separate entities existing independently of you. They are reflections, distortions, or expressions of your inner states, given life by your belief in their reality. I recall the moment I first grasped this profound principle. It was as if a veil had lifted, revealing the true nature of the world around me. I began to see how every encounter, every challenge, and every moment of difficulty was merely a reflection of an internal conflict I had yet to resolve. As I took responsibility for the states of consciousness I had allowed to dominate my life, the so-called demons faded into nothingness. The Bible, when interpreted through the psychological lens that Abdullah taught me, holds many secrets to this understanding. Consider, for example, the story of Mary Magdalene, who, according to Scripture, was possessed by 7 demons. But let us not be misled by the literal interpretation. The 7 demons were not external spirits invading her being. They were the 7 distinct states of consciousness, 7 unresolved emotions, beliefs, and conflicts that Mary had yet to integrate and transcend. Each demon was a different aspect of her own psyche, each demanding her attention and, through her attention, becoming more dominant in her life. As you reflect on this, consider how the same is true for each of us. We are not separate from our struggles. Our darkness, our challenges, and even our adversaries are not external to us. They are internal creations, projected outward and made manifest in our lives. When we engage with someone who is acting in a way that disturbs us, we must remember that we are not interacting with just that person. No, we are encountering every aspect of their own consciousness, their fears, their doubts, their pain, their unresolved conflicts, all of which are simply reflections of the same things within ourselves. You see, when you engage with someone who appears to be influenced by demons, you are not speaking to a person. You are speaking to the shadows of their own mind, the unresolved conflicts that are acting through them. This is why words alone are often insufficient to resolve the situation. You cannot reason with darkness. You cannot explain your way out of the energy that is operating through them. It is not the person you are fighting, but the state of consciousness that has overtaken them. There is a profound truth in the silence that Jesus taught us to embrace. When he said, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls before swine," he was not referring to literal animals. He was speaking about those whose minds are so entangled in darkness that any attempt to communicate truth would be trampled upon, twisted, and turned into something unrecognizable. You are not speaking to a person when you engage with such individuals. You are speaking to a state of consciousness that is impervious to reason, to truth, and to love. In such moments, silence is your greatest weapon. In a world that moves with the frantic energy of defensiveness, where words are weapons and arguments are shields, there exists a quiet power. It is not the power of noise nor the power of force, but a quiet, still power that comes from within. This power resides in silence, not the absence of sound, but the profound presence of mind that is rooted in knowing who you are. When faced with opposition, when the temptation to explain, defend, or justify yourself arises, stop. This moment is a sacred opportunity to recognize something profound. You are already complete. The battle, the need to explain, the struggle to be understood all dissolve into the realization that you are not in need of approval or justification. In this moment of silence, You are giving birth to a new reality by assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. Consider the words of the Apostle Paul in Romans 4:17, where he speaks of God as the one who calls those things which be not as though they were. This is the same principle that Jesus taught when he said, "It is done unto you as you believe." Your consciousness, your imagination, is the creative force that shapes the world around you. Silence is far from passive. It is a deliberate act of assumption. When you enter the state of the wish fulfilled, you focus on what is true in your consciousness, imagining your life as it is meant to be, rather than reacting to the life others may try to impose upon you. Think about the story of Mary Magdalene. Before her deliverance, she was possessed by 7 demons, each one a distorted belief or perception creating turmoil in her life. When Jesus spoke to her, he was speaking to the collective beliefs and states of mind that had taken root within her. Similarly, when you encounter opposition, remember that you are not fighting the person before you, but rather encountering the beliefs and states of mind operating within them. The person may be acting out of a distorted state of mind, but this is not who they are at their core. When you choose silence, you are choosing to dwell in the state of peace, wholeness, and completeness. You are recognizing that the external noise does not define you. In that silence, you are calling forth truth into the world around you. Let silence be your living power. In every moment of opposition, of misunderstanding, of misinterpretation, step into the silence. Be still and know that you are complete. In that silence, you become the master of your own reality, and all things that do not align with that truth will fade away. We live in a world where the senses are constantly bombarded, where the mind is overwhelmed by the noise and confusion of external stimuli. In such a world, the greatest act of discipline is to protect what you feed your consciousness. Just as you would never consume spoiled food, why would you allow the spoilage of negative thoughts and emotions to invade your mind? This is the essence of the mental diet, the practice of consciously choosing the states of consciousness you nourish. Imagine that your mind is a garden. If you constantly plant seeds of doubt, fear, or resentment, these weeds will grow and dominate your mental landscape. If you plant seeds of peace, understanding, and joy, these will flourish, and the weeds will wither away. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Philippians, exhorts us to dwell on whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, and commendable. This is not merely a suggestion. It is a law of the mind, a law of consciousness. Your thoughts and feelings are the building blocks of your experience, for the outer world is nothing but a reflection of the inner world. When someone attacks you or misunderstands you, the natural tendency is to react, to defend, to explain. But here lies the deeper truth. Resistance only strengthens what you resist. As Neville Goddard taught, what you resist persists. When you push against something, you are giving it life in your consciousness. The trick is not to resist, but to remain in the state of your chosen reality, anchored in the silence of your divine knowing. Consider the story of Jesus before Pilate. The Gospel of John tells us that when Pilate questioned him, Jesus gave him no answer. This silence was not the silence of fear, nor the silence of ignorance. It was the silence of absolute certainty in his divine nature. He was demonstrating that the battle is not won through words, but through the quiet strength of knowing who you truly are. The mental diet is not just about avoiding negative thoughts, but about feeding your mind with the truth of your divine nature. When someone criticizes you, ask yourself, what state am I feeding? If you react from a place of hurt or insecurity, you are feeding the state of victimhood. But if you remain in silence, in the knowing that you are whole and perfect, you feed the state of power. As Jesus taught us in the Gospel of Matthew 7-6, do not give dogs what is sacred. This means not every person, not every situation deserves your energy, your attention, your explanation. The pearls of your inner wisdom are too precious to be wasted on those who are not ready to receive them. As you practice the mental diet, you will notice that what once seemed like external challenges are simply reflections of the inner states you have been feeding. The more you feed your mind with truth, with the knowledge of your divine self, the less power the external world will have over you. Remember this: what you accept with understanding, while remaining in your chosen state, dissolves. In the silence of your knowing, all things are possible. Your inner conversation is not a trivial matter. It is the quiet architect of your world. Neville Goddard teaches us that the outer world, in all its manifestations, is but a reflection of our inner dialogue. The things we speak, whether aloud or silently within our hearts, carry the weight of our assumptions. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you felt misunderstood, attacked, or criticized? In such moments, pause and listen, not to the words of others, but to the conversation taking place within you. What are you saying to yourself? Are you defending your position, justifying your actions? Or are you assuming the consciousness of the end you desire, the end of perfect understanding, harmony, and peace? Neville Goddard's teachings invite us to realize that every thought, every internal conversation forms the foundation of our reality. Whatsoever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you have received them, Goddard teaches. This is not simply a directive to believe. It is a call to live from the end, to rest in the consciousness of already having received your desire. We have all felt the urge to explain ourselves in moments of conflict or misunderstanding, but this impulse, when unchecked, can reinforce the illusion of separation and struggle. Instead of engaging with the appearance of misunderstanding or attack, ask yourself, how would I feel if I were already in the state of perfect understanding and harmony? And then, without effort, without the need for explanation, assume that feeling. In this assumption, silence becomes powerful, not a silence of avoidance, but a silence of declaration. Your silence is an active, divine choice to rest in the consciousness of the end, knowing that all things are unfolding according to the inner conversation you are living. This is not denial of the outer world. It is a shift in consciousness. The outer world will appear to challenge you, to test your resolve, but as you remain steadfast in your inner conversation, the outer world must yield. As Goddard reminds us, when we live from the end, we are not passive participants in life, but active creators. The Bible speaks to this principle in the book of Mark. What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. When you choose to live from the end, you are operating from a state of inner alignment with the truth of your desires. You understand that the outer world, which may at first appear chaotic or challenging, is simply a mirror of your inner state of consciousness. Your imagination, your inner conversation, is the very realm where all creation takes place. Let silence be your strength, not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of divine knowing. Rest in the feeling of already having what you desire, and watch as the world around you conforms to that state. The more you rest in this silence, the more your world will conform to the consciousness you have chosen. The ultimate promise is this: as you learn to rest in the silence of your divine nature, you will witness a profound transformation, not in the outer world first, but in the deepest recesses of your being. This transformation begins when you cease to fight against appearances and align your thoughts and feelings with the end result that you desire. The promise is not that you will avoid opposition or escape challenges. Rather, it is that once you change your consciousness, once you rest in the awareness of already being that which you desire to be, the external world, those who seem to oppose you, misunderstand you, or cause you harm, must either change or remove themselves from your reality. This occurs not through conflict or defense, but through the natural law of consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality. Your state of awareness and inner conversation shape and direct the outer world. When you fully grasp this truth, you'll understand that your battles are not with people, situations, or circumstances. They are battles within your own consciousness. As Neville Goddard taught, the world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting your inner state. Consider the words of the Apostle Paul: "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Through the lens of Neville's teachings, this reveals that our true struggle lies not with external forces, but with the thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions we carry within. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus speaks of the pearl of great price. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. This pearl represents the consciousness of the divine within you, the realization that you are the creator of your own reality. When you discover this truth, you will no longer be tempted to give away your peace to those who cannot appreciate it. The most powerful response to any situation is to rest in silence. This is not passive silence, but one that is active and purposeful, the silence of one who knows the truth. Jesus exemplified this silence in his interactions with the world. When accused, misunderstood, or attacked, he did not fight back. He rested in the knowledge of who he was. His silence was not submission. It was the silence of absolute power, the silence of one who knew that all things were under his control through his consciousness. As you begin to live from the end, from the consciousness of already being what you wish to become, you will witness the world transform around you. Those who once seemed to oppose you will either change their attitudes or withdraw from your life altogether. This occurs not through confrontation, but as the natural outcome of your shifted consciousness. The world must reflect your inner state, and everything that is not in harmony with that state must fall away. This promise requires faith, patience, and trust in the process. As you move through life, remember that the outer world is but a reflection of your inner state. Change your consciousness, and the world must change with it. Rest in silence, for in that silence, you declare your divine nature and invite the fulfillment of your deepest desires. There comes a time in your spiritual journey when you must enter into what Scripture calls the Sabbath rest. This is not merely a pause from work or a physical retreat, but a profound shift in consciousness. The Sabbath is the cessation of internal turmoil, the quiet stillness where all mental labor ceases and you rest in the completeness of your own being. When truly understood, this principle reveals that while the world may demand explanations and pressure you to defend yourself, there is no need. Your consciousness has become your most powerful ally. You are no longer fighting external battles because you recognize that all conflict originates within your mind. In this state of completion, there is nothing left to prove. The battle that rages in the world is not the true battle. It is the battle within each individual's consciousness that shapes their outward reality. You cannot change external circumstances until you change the consciousness that generates them. The mind is the ultimate creator, and your experienced world reflects the thoughts and beliefs you hold. Jesus demonstrated this profound truth. During his trial and accusation, he remained silent before Pilate and the high priests. He understood that his mission transcended the petty squabbles of the world. He had already entered the Sabbath rest, the state of knowing that all things are complete. "It is finished," he said. His silence was not of avoidance, but of power. The book of Hebrews speaks of this Sabbath rest as the same rest God entered after creation. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Genesis 2:2. This rest was not from fatigue. God does not tire. It was a divine gesture of completion, an acknowledgement that the work was already perfect. When you enter the Sabbath rest, you align with this state of completion. You understand that nothing more needs to be done because you are already one with the infinite mind of God. The struggle, the striving, the fighting, all unnecessary. Your silence becomes your greatest power, born not of weakness, but of knowing that all is well. Consider the Israelites at the Red Sea, faced with the pursuing Egyptian army. Moses instructed them, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. In this stillness, they witnessed the sea part before them, demonstrating that divine order was already at work. This is the Sabbath rest, when you cease striving and trust that the forces of creation move in harmony with you. Your consciousness becomes the creative force, establishing in the unseen realm what will manifest in time. This principle doesn't call for passivity or indifference. Instead, it invites you to move from a place of inner knowing, where your actions spring from deep awareness rather than external provocations. Your silence becomes powerful, not because you avoid conflict, but because you understand that your state of consciousness creates all. When faced with conflict or the urge to defend yourself, simply stop. Rest in the silence of your true nature, knowing that all is well. Your consciousness is the ultimate creator, and nothing can stand against the power of your inner conviction. In this state, your silence speaks the language of completion, wholeness, and divine authority. Enter into this Sabbath rest, not as a retreat from life, but as an active alignment with your true nature. It is the peace that surpasses understanding, born from knowing you are one with the infinite creative power of the universe. In this truth, you'll find your battles are no longer yours to fight. They are already won in the realm of your consciousness. In the stillness of your consciousness lies the key to all you seek, for the deepest truth is that your consciousness is God. This is not a mere philosophical abstraction, but a living, breathing reality that defines the very fabric of your existence. The moment you begin to understand this, you stand on the threshold of a great awakening, a shift so profound that it redefines how you see everything around you. In the teachings of Neville Goddard, we come to realize that all we perceive is but an extension of the consciousness within us. What we call reality is nothing more than the external expression of our inner state of being. When you stand in silence, you are not merely being quiet. You are standing in the fullness of your divine nature, embracing the power of your imagination and consciousness. Those driven by base impulses cannot receive the higher truths you wish to share. Their resistance isn't personal. It's a reflection of their state of consciousness, one that is not prepared to grasp the sacred pearls you offer. You need not explain yourself to them, for doing so would waste your precious energy. The world would tell you that if you do not defend yourself, you will be destroyed. But those who misunderstand you are merely playing their parts in the divine drama you have already set in motion with your imagination. They are not separate from you, but reflections of the thoughts you have held in the depths of your mind. To engage them in a battle of words is to perpetuate the illusion of separation. When you awaken to this truth, the need to explain yourself evaporates. You recognize that the divine intelligence within you has already written the script of your life, and every character who enters your world plays their part according to that script. Those who oppose you are not there to stop you. They are there to shape you, to refine you, to call forth from you a deeper understanding of your divine power. Consider how Jesus handled confrontation with the Pharisees and critics. He did not offer lengthy defenses or rationalizations. Instead, he responded with powerful silence, or spoke in parables that only those with a receptive consciousness could understand. The lesson is clear. Silence, not speech, becomes the most powerful tool in awakening to your true nature. In your silence, you affirm that you are the creator of your own experience. You are not bound by the judgments, criticisms, or misunderstandings of others. You stand as the conscious creator of your reality, and in that knowing, you rest in your divine nature. Reflect deeply. How often have you engaged in unnecessary battles, defending positions that ultimately held no true value? The more you contemplate this, the clearer it becomes that silence is not an absence of power. It is the presence of power. It is an intentional state of awareness, a recognition that your consciousness shapes the universe around you. The battle is not in the external world. It is in the mind. Every person you encounter is a reflection of your inner consciousness. and the moment you realize this, you awaken to your true power. When you are aligned with your divine nature, the world outside cannot disturb you, for you know that all things are working together for your highest good. This is the Great Awakening, the recognition that you are not a victim of circumstance, but the creator of all that you experience. You need not explain yourself, justify your actions, or defend your being. You simply need to stand in the full awareness of who you are. And in that awareness, the world will align itself to reflect the truth of your consciousness. So, in every moment of potential conflict, remember, your silence is the most profound expression of your power. You are God, the creator of your reality, and when you stand in that knowing, there is no need for explanation. Your life, as you have imagined it, will unfold perfectly. Simply rest in the knowledge that you are the creator, and all is as it should be. As we conclude our journey, remember the profound truth that Jesus himself demonstrated. Not every battle requires a response. Not every person deserves an explanation. And not every conversation is worth engaging in. When you choose silence, you are not retreating. You are fighting in God's way, declaring your trust in Him to defend you and speak for you. The pearls God has entrusted to you, your peace, wisdom, and divine consciousness, are too precious to be cast before those who cannot recognize their value. When you step back in divine confidence, you create the space for God to step in, allowing truth to be revealed and victory to manifest in divine timing. Let silence be your strength, and stop explaining yourself to those whose consciousness is not yet ready to understand. Trust that your consciousness, which is God, works in ways that human arguments never could, and rest in knowing that all is well in the kingdom of your consciousness. Thank you for joining me in this profound exploration of divine silence and consciousness. I pray that God fills you with wisdom, peace, and discernment as you walk this path. Remember, in quietness and trust is your strength. May God bless you abundantly, and I look forward to our next journey together.